Wow, please grab a chair and sit back to hear today's inspiring story. Please subscribe to my channel, like and share. Once upon a time, in a land stricken by drought and famine, where the sun scorched the earth and crops withered, lived a poor widow in a small town called Zarephath. She was a mother, a woman of quiet strength, trying to survive in a time when every day brought a new battle. She had almost nothing left, just a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. She was gathering sticks one day, preparing to cook what she believed would be her last meal for herself and her son. But then, a stranger appeared. Dusty from travel and worn by hunger, he was a man of God named Elijah. "Please," Elijah said gently, "bring me a little water in a jar so I may drink. And, oh, bring me a piece of bread too." The widow looked at him with weary eyes. "As surely as the Lord your God lives," she said, "I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. I'm gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." But Elijah said something that would change her life forever. He said, "Don't be afraid." Then he gave her a simple instruction from God: "Go home and do as you've said, but first make a small loaf of bread for me, then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord says: the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the Lord sends rain on the land." The woman had a choice: obey the word of the Lord or hold tightly to the little she had. And she obeyed. She used the last of her flour and oil to feed Elijah first. And just like the prophet had said, something miraculous happened. Day after day, her jar of flour was never empty, and her jug of oil never ran dry. She had just enough, not overflowing, not wasted, but always enough. The message for us today. We are all a bit like the widow at times. Looking at the little we have, overwhelmed by life's struggles, and feeling like we are at the end of the road. But this story teaches us a powerful truth. God doesn't ask for what you don't have, He asks you to trust Him with what you do. Maybe your flour is a small skill, a small business idea, a talent, or just your time. Maybe your oil is your kindness, your voice, or your faith. It may not seem like much, but in God's hands, little becomes more than enough. But the key is obedience. The widow could have said no. She could have hoarded the little she had. But in giving it to God, He multiplied it daily. That's what obedience does. It opens the door for daily provision and divine surprises. So, friend, don't underestimate the oil in your jar. Don't dismiss the flour in your hand. And above all, trust and obey, even when it feels risky. Because the God who sustained the widow in Zarephath is the same God who sees you, and your oil will not run dry.